Airbus A380. When Airbus unveiled this double-decker giant in 2005, it was supposed to be the future of aviation. It could carry over 800 passengers, making it the largest commercial aircraft ever built and one of the most expensive bets in aerospace history. Emirates went all in, turning the upper deck into private suites and a cocktail bar at 40,000 feet. But most airlines simply couldn't fill it profitably. As smaller, more efficient jets made point-to-point flying viable, the massive hub model, the A380, was built around started to collapse. In 2019, Airbus announced it would end production after just 251 units. It never made its money back. And yet, ask anyone who has flown on one, and they'll tell you it's the greatest flying experience of their life. Airbus A320 family. No aircraft has done more to shape modern aviation than this one. When the A320 launched in 1988, it became the first commercial airliner with a fly-by-wire control system, meaning pilots flew through electronic signals rather than mechanical cables. It also introduced the side-stick controller, which traditionalists hated and engineers loved. The real genius, though, was the family concept. The A318, A319, A320, and A321 all share the same type rating, so airlines only need to train pilots once for the entire lineup. That saved billions. Today, over 10,000 have been delivered, making this family the undisputed backbone of short-haul aviation across the entire planet. Airbus A330. This wide-body twin-engine jet has been quietly connecting the world since 1994, earning a reputation as one of the most reliable long-haul aircraft ever built. But reliability doesn't make headlines. Disasters do. In 2009, Air France Flight 447 disappeared over the Atlantic, killing all 228 people on board. The cause was a combination of frozen pitot tubes and pilot error, making it the most scrutinized crash of the modern era. The A330 itself was cleared, but the accident permanently changed how airlines train pilots to handle automation failures. Today, the aircraft is still in service with dozens of carriers, a workhorse that survived one of aviation's darkest moments. Airbus A340. In the early 1990s, flying 4 engines over the ocean felt much safer than trusting 2. That logic built the A340, Airbus's flagship long-haul jet and a direct rival to the Boeing 747. Airlines loved it. Routes like Zurich to Hong Kong became possible, and for a decade it was the gold standard for ultra-long-haul flying. Then regulations changed, twin-engine jets proved just as reliable, and the A330, which shared the same fuselage but burned half the fuel, made the A340 look like an expensive mistake overnight. Orders dried up completely. Production ended in 2011. The 4-engine long-haul jet had been killed not by a crash or a scandal, but simply by economics. Airbus A350. This is Airbus's answer to Boeing's 787 Dreamliner, and by almost every measure, it won. Built from over 50% composite materials, it is one of the most fuel-efficient wide-bodies ever flown, and airlines rushed to order it. But the A350's story isn't just about technology. It's also about one of the messiest public disputes in aviation history. Qatar Airways, the jet's biggest customer, sued Airbus over surface degradation issues on the fuselage, claiming the paint was peeling in ways that exposed structural concerns. Airbus hit back by canceling Qatar's A320neo orders. The two sides fought in court for years before eventually settling. Through all of it, the A350 kept selling, because despite the drama, it is genuinely one of the best aircraft ever built. Airbus A300. Everything starts here. The A300 was the very first Airbus, launched in 1972 as a radical idea that European manufacturers could challenge American dominance in commercial aviation. It was the world's first twin-engine wide-body jet, and nobody wanted it at first. Airlines were skeptical of a plane built by a consortium of French, German, British, and Spanish companies. Eastern Airlines in the US only agreed to try it after Airbus offered them a free 6-month trial. They loved it, and signed a massive order that cracked open the American market. Without that gamble, there is no A320, no A380, no Airbus as we know it today. The A300 didn't just launch a product line, it launched an empire. Airbus A220. This aircraft almost didn't exist. Originally designed by Canadian manufacturer Bombardier as the C-Series, it was one of the most advanced narrow-body jets ever built, and it nearly bankrupted the company trying to bring it to market. When Delta Airlines ordered it, Boeing convinced the US government to slap a 300% import tariff on the plane, arguing it undercut American jobs. The move backfired spectacularly. The political fallout was enormous. The tariff was eventually overturned, and Airbus stepped in to acquire a majority stake for essentially $1. Rebranded as the A220, it is now considered the best aircraft in its class. A plane that survived a trade war, a near bankruptcy, and a hostile takeover to become one of the hottest-selling jets in the world. Airbus A310. The A310 is one of the most underrated aircraft in aviation history. Launched in 1983 as a shorter variant of the A300, it became the first commercial airliner to replace the flight engineer with a fully digital glass cockpit, meaning the crew went from 3 people to 2 overnight. That was controversial at the time, but it set the standard for every airliner that followed. It also had an exceptional range for its size, making it popular for transatlantic routes where a full-sized wide body was overkill. Today, it lives on in a surprising second career. The Canadian Air Force uses a military variant as a tanker and transport, still flying decades after airlines retired it. Airbus Beluga. And then there's this. The Beluga looks like someone dared an engineer to make a plane as ridiculous as possible, and they accepted the challenge. Based on the A300 fuselage, it features an enormous bulging upper deck that makes it look more like a whale than an aircraft, which is exactly where the name comes from. Airbus built it for one very specific purpose: transporting oversized aircraft components between its factories across Europe. Wings built in the UK, fuselages from Germany, nose sections from France. All of it moves inside a Beluga before being assembled in Toulouse. Without it, Airbus literally cannot build its own planes. It is, without question, the strangest-looking aircraft ever to fly regular commercial routes, and Airbus couldn't survive a single day without it.